Hey everybody, this is Cheyenne Storm with ColorGeHear, and in this tutorial I'm just going to show you a little bit about the curves adjustment. And right now we've got a little bit of a grade going on here. In fact, let me hit Option Shift N to go to, this is the raw footage here by itself, and then here's our funky little grade, and we'll take the spectral enhancer off. Actually, let's go ahead and label these. Spectral. This is Fuji 3513. This is simply warmer. And this is curves. Okay, so we take the spectral enhancer off, the film stock off, simply warmer off, and our curves adjustment, and we get our raw footage. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to completely reset this part here and then leave these turned off. So I'm going to turn this on, I'm going to come into here, and I'm going to reset all of the curves adjustments. So we're back to our raw footage. Okay, so at least in DaVinci you have a little bit more control with curves than you do in your, in your standard curves adjustment like in After Effects or Premiere Pro. And by that, I mean, you actually have this slider over here that will, if you watch the scopes over here, will actually squeeze down. It will keep everything linear, but you can see that it raises the shadows and lowers the highlights, so that, if we watch over here on the scope, you can see that we're basically just pushing everything down and kind of flattening the footage out, which in some cases, you might want to do this, especially when you're working with film stocks. This is a little low here. I might want to maybe leave my highlights and midtones there and then just bring the shadows up by grabbing this node here. Oops. Grabbing this node here and raising it, and then that'll get my shadows up. So if I get my shadows up around 20, and I have my highlights around 80, this is all pretty good right here. Having trouble here. You can see if we scroll through this will actually plug into some of our other gears really nicely. And if you watch the expose in the zone tutorial, you'll see that I try to expose all of my footage between 80 and 20, especially for grading if I'm going to be doing a really heavy grade. So that's one of the things you can do in DaVinci here. The other thing you can do in DaVinci is, you can see that I have these unganged. This says gang custom curves, so I have it unganged, it's unchecked, which means I can control these individually. Is the intensity slider. So if I grab this intensity slider, I can back that effect off, almost like an opacity slider in After Effects or the opacity key in DaVinci. So maybe I just want a very subtle version of that effect. But you'll see that if I completely reset this and then drag the intensity slider, nothing happens. Because there's no curves adjustment going on within this channel. So it's not going to, if you back it off, it's not changing anything. So what exactly does the curves adjustment do? Well, this is linear, this is video. Video is always a straight line. Film is more logarithmic or curved. And so in a curves adjustment, we can create a more logarithmic look. Typically, you make an S-curve by bringing the highlights up. If you watch over here on the scopes, you can see that the highlights are going up. Most film will sort of come down, roll off the highlights, and then from the shadows you would bring the shadows down depending on what kind of log you're going for. And this is considered your typical, if I wanted to raise the shadows maybe a little bit to get maybe kind of a vintage look, I could grab this node here, or this nodule, this point, and bring it up, and you can see that's bringing the shadows up. And then I could stretch this out a little bit and bring this up. Let me watch our shadows over here come up. In fact, if I drop that back down, whoa, grab the stupid slider over there. If I drag that back down, you can see the shadows going back down towards 0. Here they come up to above broadcast. I set this line here in my scopes to show me where broadcast is. And then this is like my skin tone target here. Let's say, I want to bring these flowers down within that range. There's a number of ways I can do that. I can bring this down, maybe I can set a midpoint. Maybe I like this curve up to that point, but now I just want to bring the highlights down around the middle there, and I still want them to roll off. See, this is a little bit different type of a curve. Okay, but I don't really like any of that. But anyway, so if you go this way, you boost the intensity of whatever it is. If it's the midtones, in this case it's a midtone node or a point. This makes it darker. So down to the right is darker, up and to the left is brighter. Same thing here. So like if we were to just grab it, this would make everything a little bit darker. This would make everything a little bit brighter. And you can see how it rolls off as it comes up along the curve. This would make it infinitely less bright, and you can see the scopes coming down. But then your image does begin to flatten out, and by flatten out I mean this right here. If I were to just grab this, you can watch, this waveform monitors basically your image. It's all the data that's in here. As a very unflat image would be all the way to 100 IRE and all the way down to 0. So a flattened image is exactly what we say. And look at what happens to the waveform. That's completely flat. And this which we've taken all the highlight, shadow, and midtone data and just squoze it down. Or squeezed? Squozen? I don't even know what the word is there. So yeah, so there's that. So well, curves are not just confined to luminosity. We can change color as well. So in the case of the red curve, if we boost it, it boosts the red. If we drag it down, it boosts magenta or cyan. So cyan down and to the right, red up and to the left. Let's reset that. Green's the same way. We get more green going this way. We get more magenta coming down this way. Blue, we get more blue, and we get more yellow going the other way. So if we wanted to do some fun stuff to this image, maybe we would let's bring up the blue and the shadows a little bit. Maybe add some red across the entire image, and let's suck some green out. And let's take some green out of the shadows as well. And then let's do a custom curve. Let's bring our highlights down and roll them off. A nice film curve. And then there's our film sort of S-curve. Maybe we want to boost the shadows a little bit. Give it a little bit more of a vintage look. Vintage film stocks tended not to bring the shadows all the way down to black. So we're going to bring it up a little bit. And then we're going to engage the Simply Warmer gear, warm it up a little bit, add a Fuji film stock, and see I've got the Fuji film stock mixed way down to, here, let me get it selected, mixed down by half. And then the spectral enhancer. And so that's an interesting little look. It's warm, it's colorful, it's got a little bit of orange here in the midtones, but it's not overtly orangey. If we were to turn the Simply Warmer off, that would, of course, change that a little bit. And let's compare that to raw footage. That's a really quick grade, and that's just 3 gears and a curves adjustment. It's an interesting looking thing there. So I hope that explains curves well. If you have any questions, email me, colorgear@gmail.com.